Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Okay, so I've hit the record button. Check.
Check.
We're off to the races. We're going to put up with this because we have a technical difficulty where I can hear myself talking other than just my voice. Odd.
So it's like voices in your head again?
No, I've always had voices in my head. And they usually sound like Kelly.
Wow, that was rude.
Oh yeah, speaking of rude, I invited Scooter to be on this too, I think. Or did I? I don't know if I did or not. If I didn't, Scooter, I apologize.
He may be sitting around waiting for me. No,
yeah, exactly. And I had to leave that group message again because they were starting to make silly comments, so I had to leave that. So yeah, here's some background for everybody out there in podcast land. The way I organize everybody is I usually do it through Facebook Messenger, but then they continue to send little messages back and forth. What are you wearing today? Oh, I'm wearing my jeans with a 3/4 zip pullover, embroidered. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. You sound marvelous once again.
Okay. Now I can hear a clicking in the background.
Yeah, that's what I hear too.
Oh, you do you?
Yeah, I can hear that too.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Now we have another problem. Adam, say something.
Hi there. I'm here. I can also hear a little clicking in the background, but it's probably just static.
That's probably Kelly.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's got to be.
No.
Absolutely, it has to be. Anytime there's a problem. What you need to know, Adam, and I'm sure you've listened to this podcast, some of them twice, many times. What you need to know about this is any kind of time there's a problem, it's Kelly's fault.
My fault.
Yeah.
Unless Kelly's not here, then it's usually my fault.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get right to the meat of the matter. The guest we have tonight, his name is Adam Matthews. And I first discovered his website, I don't remember when, but it was well over a year ago. Could have been possibly as long as 2 years ago. And it was one of those things where you're scrolling through YouTube or whatever, and up pops this really cool video, or I don't know how Adam, how would I have discovered your website?
A variety of ways. I do have a YouTube channel. I have not posted a video to it in quite some time, simply because the photography has taken over the videography. So my website is linked to all of my YouTube videos, so you probably did find one of my YouTube videos and click the link from there. But I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, of course. So,
of course, you prefer Instagram over Facebook?
Instagram is where I have the most followers now. So that's my main platform.
So the website is called Train Wizard Productions, and it's the website actual name is Train Wizard Pro. The word train, the word wizard, and then pro, PRO.com. And I opened it up, and it has these fabulous pictures that are staged from the steam era. Is it primarily the steam era?
Yes. Yep. Primarily steam and vintage diesels.
And how did you? So before we go on, this podcast is on the free channel, which is sponsored by Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
And they have both steam and diesel.
Oh, do they?
They do.
Okay, so when did you start this podcast or this website?
This website, I think here, this website, I believe, dates from 2018 or 2019.
Jeez.
I've been photographing trains, like seriously photographing trains since 2010. So this was just an evolution of an earlier website, which is no longer public. And this is my main site now, where I can upload all of my photos in nice, clean, organized galleries, and people can actually purchase and buy prints from here as well, if they so desire.
And
so,
how did you come up with this site? Because it looks like each photo is just a massive amount of work to be organized.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so the majority of the photos are taken either on excursions that I've been on, trips, train chases, museums, and photo charters. And those are, of course, staged photo shoots. So I've traveled a lot over the years. I've been to a lot of places, met a lot of people, have been involved with a lot of great organizations all across the country. And it's just fun. It's a whole other, I call it my second job outside of my real, day job, is doing all this railroad photography and volunteering and railroad preservation.
Yeah, and you're somehow heavily involved with the Nickel Plate Historical Society, right?
Yes, I am their. I began as their social media admin and webmaster, and then that morphed into. I'm now the assistant editor for the. No, not assistant editor. I'm the production editor for the monthly newsletter. And I'm the technology committee chairman. I was on the convention committee this year, and I'm now the strategic planning manager for the future of the society. So
He sounds like Kelly getting his finger in everything possibly going.
It sounds like who?
No.
Kelly.
Oh,
No.
yeah.
oh
My photography doesn't even come close to that.
No, we're not talking about your photography.
Yeah.
Trust me.
That's what I'm
So-
looking at. It's unbelievable.
Kelly, Kelly,
Mhm.
just so to keep you in the loop, Kelly is the president of every model railroad club within 110 miles of Medford. Oregon.
Okay. Well, I'm. In addition to the Nickel Plate Society, that's the one I've been involved with the most. The other two are the Mad River and Nickel Plate Road Museum in Bellevue, Ohio, where I do social media there, basically all the publicity now. I'm the webmaster there, volunteer. And finally, the third organization is the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society, which runs Nickel Plate Road 765 and now Nickel Plate Road SD9 Diesel 358, among other things, and the Indiana Rail Experience. Which
Yeah, I think you're going to have to repeat everything you just said over the last 3
really?
minutes because I just I couldn't follow you.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'll start over again.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's try to, and feel free to help me out here, Kelly. Feel free to actually say something.
Well, I will.
Okay.
Just slow down a little bit.
All right. So
let's try to do this again. So you're the Nickel Plate Historical Society. What is that exactly?
The Nickel Plate Road Historical and Technical Society was founded in 1966, 2 years after the Nickel Plate was merged into the Norfolk and Western. Our last living founder is Tony Coster, a name you may all be familiar with from Railroad Model Craftsman and Model Railroader, etc. So he's our last living founder. And he's a nickel plate guy, and he wanted to preserve the memory of his favorite railroad, so he gathered a group of friends, and next thing they knew, they had their own little historical society. And since that time, it's evolved into quite an organization. We have members as far away as Australia that model the nickel plate. And we publish 4 full-color print magazines a year. We do a monthly electronic newsletter. In the past few years, we have been able to digitize thousands of photographs and documents that have been sitting in our physical archives up in Buffalo for decades. So we're slowly and steadily working on making those available to everyone to see on the internet.
You know that it snows in Buffalo, right?
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah, where do you live? You live somewhere in Ohio, you said?
Yes, I'm from born and raised in Amherst, Ohio, which is about 20 miles west of Cleveland.
You guys get any snow?
I did not get any snow because I'm on the west side of Cleveland, so we're outside of the lake effect snow belt range. We get it when the wind blows further west, but this past week we didn't get anything.
So I don't want to get too far off Train Wizard Productions before we get into this, all this other stuff.
The pictures are fantastic.
The pictures are beyond fantastic.
I mean, it's just
exactly. But it's like, how do you? I don't even know where to start to ask questions because.
All right, what started you photographing trains? Let's start there.
I like to tell people that I was born liking trains. My grandfather was a rail fan, in a sense. He worked at the United States Steel Mill in Lorain, Ohio, and he eventually worked himself up to vice superintendent of shipping, which meant that he was in charge of all of the shipping of steel and other materials in and out of the plant. So he was always around trains. And I spent a lot of time with my grandparents when I was little, and I'm of the Thomas the Tank Engine generation. So I grew up watching Thomas the Tank Engine and other train videos with him. And he was a photographer and videographer, amateur. And he did take a few train photos that I've uncovered over the years in his vast slide collection. So it just sort of rubbed off on me. And then I got older, started taking more of an interest in actively photographing trains. And I've always been a student of railroad history. I have a model railroad, O-gauge, and people love coming down to the train room, especially fellow model railroaders and rail fans. And then I go, well, you want to look at the library now? And I open the doors to my many bookcases. And then all the attention goes to my vast collection of railroad history books and photography books instead of the models.
So let me ask you a question that I ask everybody. Might as well get it out of the way early. How old of a gentleman are you?
I am 33.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And do you have any way, can we see your driver's license or something?
I don't.
Do you have any photo
it on me right now?
Do you have any photo ID? So I do these podcasts, Adam, with guys that don't talk. It's fascinating. It's great fun. So what do you think it is? I mean, you're a young man at 33, but what do you think it is? What is the attraction of trains for people? Because what I often say is, it seems like if you like trains, it never gets out of your blood. Mm-hmm. But I don't understand. The only thing I can come up with, the only solid theory that I can come up with, and this isn't a conspiracy theory, this is a still unproven theory, but I believe I'm on the right track, is that when we're born, there's a good fairy that goes from hospital to hospital and sprinkles the model railroad fairy, and she sprinkles pixie dust on certain individuals, and that's how you become a train enthusiast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question because being an active rail preservationist and stuff like that, I get asked that question a lot, and I get to see people fall for trains a lot. Not like fall on the tracks or anything like that, but I've witnessed many, many people see 765 for the first time, and they instantly become hooked. And they just came out to ride, with their kids for an ice cream train. But then here comes 765 barking into the station, steam and smoke going everywhere, and the whistle makes the hair on the back of your head stand up. And then they go, oh, I get it now. This thing's alive. This is a living machine. It breathes, it talks. It's
yeah, I feel like we're gonna have to do like a half a dozen episodes with you to even come close to covering.
I just got onto the website and just outstanding photography.
Thank you.
You just got onto it now, and we've been talking about it for the last hour.
Brad takes his time on things.
Yeah.
I
had to wait for the right moment.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for jumping right in there, Brad.
No, I have been browsing, and I wasn't just on it, but I did notice, interestingly enough, we probably crossed paths without knowing it because
really?
I see you were at the Iron Horse Ramble on the Reading and Northern. Now you boarded at Reading Outer Station, correct?
Yes.
Yep. We got on that same train, but we were at Port Clinton.
Port Clinton?
Got on the train.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So where do you see the Iron Horse Ramble?
It's on the left-hand side. Let me see how many. If you're on his main page, it's probably 1, 2, 3. If you scroll down like 8 rows, it's on the left. It's the left-hand picture.
Oh, okay.
It's their 2102 steam engine.
So you're reading ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one that I believe we were both on is the Western Maryland Scenic 1309.
Okay.
We didn't actually ride that, but we did chase it, which it appears you did as well. So
in 2022.
Yes.
Okay.
It was its first day back pulling the excursion train. Down there.
Yeah.
We got to try to do this in some sort of an organized fashion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's stay with this first. How you managed to, like, when did you first come up with the idea of doing these period shots? Because, like I say, like I'm just looking at this one from the Rolling Victory weekend, which is the 3-day long World War II immersive event hosted by the Indiana Rail Experience and the Laurel Farms Reenactment Group. How did you get all these guys organized?
So that wasn't all me. This was the Rolling Victory weekend was the big tent pole event for the Indiana Rail Experience this year. And what it was a 3-day World War II immersive event with the Lauer Farms World War II Reenactment Group out of Lima, Ohio. And my friend Chris Lance, who's also a member of the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society, and he's actually the guy that sort of organizes all of the photo shoots. Not all of them, but many of the shoots I've been on. And so we partnered with that reenactment group to bring all of their people, equipment out of Lima, Ohio to the Indiana Rail Experience in Pleasant Lake, Indiana, to our site there and set up shop. And we created basically an army camp next to the train station. And every day had different kinds of events for people to do. We had the first day, for example, was a nighttime excursion with 765 and all the reenactors and paying passengers. And everyone was dressed in period costume. Passengers were encouraged to dress that way. And we encourage all of our riders to dress in period outfits if they so choose to on any of our excursions. And then Saturday and Sunday were different, but similar at the same time. Saturday was our biggest day. So during the day, 765 would run shuttle trains from Angola, north of Pleasant Lake, Indiana, to Pleasant Lake, Indiana, because we don't have enough parking at Pleasant Lake for all the people to come and see everything we had to see.
So where's Pleasant Lake and Angola? How far apart are they?
Just a few miles apart.
Okay.
Yeah, just a few miles apart. So people would get on 765 in Angola. They'd come down to Pleasant Lake, get off, and then they could explore the army camp. They could grab lunch at one of our vendor trucks. And then, if they bought tickets for it, they could hop on our second train set, which was diesel powered. And that little train took you further south to Steubenville, Indiana, to the little interchange there, where we had the fake battlefield set up between the Americans, the French resistance, and the Germans.
This was in Steubenville.
Steubenville in Indiana.
So see if I can understand this. So what is the Indiana rail experience? It's something.
Okay.
Well, let's hang on. I'm going to ask simple questions if I can.
Yeah.
So 765 is part of the Fort Wayne guys, part of the Indiana guys. Who's it with?
So the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society, we run 765. And 3 years ago, we entered into a partnership with the Indiana Northeastern Railroad, which operates in Ohio, Northeast Indiana, and Michigan. And
hang on a minute. Somebody's banging their microphone, so if somebody can stop doing that.
It is not me, so you can't.
I didn't say it was you. I just said somebody. Somebody's banging their microphone, so if we can stop doing that, that would be great.
It's got to be Brad.
Yeah. So it's a privately owned short line railroad company.
The Indiana Rail Experience.
The Indiana Northeastern Railroad, and we entered into agreement with them to basically run our trains over their trackage because they primarily haul grain. Okay, so what's going to happen to the tracks when the grain season's over with? Oh, nothing really is going to happen. There's not a whole lot of traffic going on when there's no grain trains to run. So, basically, we have the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society has over 100 and close to 150 miles of track that we get to play with.
And what's the name of the short line?
Indiana Northeastern.
Okay, so when I put in Fort Wayne Rail Experience in the work in the Google and the Internet machine, it comes up as the Indiana Rail Experience.
Yeah. So we created a title, another web page for all the things we're doing with the Indiana Northeastern called the Indiana Rail Experience. And since then, since it began, the society has purchased the Pleasant Lake, Indiana Depot, which is a former Lakeshore, Michigan Southern, New York Central station that's 143 years old.
Who purchased it?
The Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society.
Okay, which is part of
operates the Indiana Rail Experience.
So is there a website just for the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society?
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's just Fort Wayne Railroad, Fort Wayne Rails.
Let me see if I can find it, because every time I put it in, I keep ending up back at the Indiana Rail Experience.
Yeah.
So what would I?
FortWayneRailroad.org.
Okay, let me try that.
Sorry.
FortWayneRailroad.org. Because isn't the Fort Wayne Historical Society? Isn't it kind of a big deal?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like it's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, we keep getting bigger.
So hang on, let me see if I can find that on the Google. Oh yeah, there it is. I got it now.
Mm-hmm.
So Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society. So yeah, like it's a huge deal. It's bigger than all the other things, really. Isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah, it's big.
Because I don't know, I've stumbled over other stuff where they seem to be the place where you take locomotives to be restored and things like that.
Well, not really. Many of our members that are very active in preservation work for other consulting companies that work on all the other railroad preservation projects you could think of. So there's a lot of cross membership between all of these groups that you see out there. It's not like, it really isn't. There are separate teams of people working on every individual project, but there's another team of people that works on every single project that you can think of in some way, shape, or form.
And so, who does that team belong to?
It's a variety of groups. The chief among them is FMW Solutions.
I'm thinking I'm starting to.
Yeah, but that's something different. But anyways, back to Rolling Victory and all that.
Hang on a minute.
If you want.
Yeah, well, this is like so complicated. We're going to have to. Yes. FMW Solutions is rail contractors and railroad craftsmen for the 21st century.
Yeah.
There's a railroad consulting and hang on, diesel servicing, repair, rail operations. Yeah, so these guys and restoration, operation of historical equipment and everything like that. Yeah, man, this is like beyond confusing.
But they aren't all Fort Wayne people. There are other people too. Just a few of our guys work for them.
Do they have? Do any of those people own Rapido trains?
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
But there's lots of other little contractor groups out there.
I don't even know how to. Even know how to organize this interview.
Yeah, it's all over the place, man.
There's so much.
What, Adam? What do you do for a living?
For a living, my muggle job, as I call it.
Your what job? Your what job?
Muggles.
Muggles?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's from Harry Potter. By day, I am a marketing coordinator at an architecture firm in Cleveland, Ohio.
A marketing guy for an architecture firm.
Mm-hmm. Before that, I was a marketing guy for a library in Ohio.
Oh, so marketing is your main thing?
Yeah, I kind of fell into it.
And the photography would be very handy for that, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the railroad experience comes in handy at the architecture firm, as we do a lot of transit projects. So.
Wow. Oh, do you?
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll just stop now.
We're going to need a bigger podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to need a bigger boat. Yeah. Fortunately, though, people. I don't even know. Let's stick with Train Wizard Productions.
Okay.
For now.
Mm-hmm.
Is the when you purchase the photos and stuff, is that going through a third party?
Yes. So my website is hosted by a platform called SmugMug, and it's basically it's a web platform for photographers. because it combines web hosting with photo printing services.
Yeah.
So it's all integrated as one.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm
So how often would you
a
sell?
lot of photographers use SmugMug because they can sell photos and other things through that too. They do calendars and coasters and mugs and bits and bobs, all that type of stuff.
So
Yeah.
SmugMug is some sort of web designer / photo selling place?
Yes.
Never heard of it. But of course, everything nowadays is you've never heard of it. How often do you sell photos? Do you sell many photos?
Well, I didn't do it this year. There's this big art show in the Cleveland area, specifically Lakewood. And I've been pretty successful at that on an annual basis. But throughout the year, I'll get, hits and people want to buy a few photos here and there. I really don't do it for the money.
You do it for
It's
the
really
love
more
of the, for the love of the game.
Yeah, I do it for the love of the game, really, and just to showcase everything.
So can I buy photos for like $1 each?
They're a little more than that.
oh, God.
So apparently money enters into it somehow.
It's going to cost you at least $10.
Yeah, I do have a variety of calendars on sale this year. That's new.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So
Now, I obviously, you're doing a lot of steam and a lot of buys and stuff like that. Do you do any other like these modern diesel?
not really. Mostly because I don't have the time to, just go out there and sit trackside and wait for the latest intermodal to come by. Where my office is in Cleveland, I'm actually in walking distance of the Norfolk Southern main line along the lakefront, along Lake Erie. So I do occasionally go out there during lunch and hope I catch something.
Yeah.
But it's hit or miss. When I'm honestly this past weekend, I was in Bellevue at the Mad River and Nickel Plate Road Museum, where I also volunteer because we were having our holiday trains. And so that was probably the most Norfolk Southern action I've captured in quite a while, because the NS goes right through the middle of the museum property, just the way everything's set up. But yeah, I don't really get out to, shoot the modern day stuff unless I know something good's coming. And I've got a couple contacts in NS that are engineers and such that'll let me know if they've got a heritage unit coming through or something crazy like the brick, the engineering train, or the office car specials coming through. I've caught that a few times through my hometown. So,
are you a model railroader?
I am.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that in another day.
Oh, I know. I'm just laying.
I appreciate it because some people are being silent. Man, I've wanted to talk to you for a long time, and I don't even know. Living in Ohio allows for many opportunities to experience contemporary scenic and steam rail. So how did the Mad River Nickel Plate Museum, that's something different altogether.
Yes. So
what is the Nickel Plate Historical Society? Do they have any physical buildings or land or anything?
No, and that's what makes it rather unique. The founders of the society, they saw early on that owning physical equipment like cabooses, rolling stocks, building locomotives could be a potential problem in the future. They strictly wanted to collect information and archival materials like photos, documents, maps, etc. So they don't have an actual museum. What we do have now are 2 sizable storage rooms at the Heritage Discovery Center in Buffalo, New York. And that's where the physical archives are held and stored.
And what is the Heritage Discovery Center?
It's like a It's like one of those science museums. They've got a whole bunch of stuff inside there pertaining to like Buffalo history and that part of New York, along with other organizations similar to us
What was it
renting
called
out
again? The
space.
Heritage what?
Heritage Discovery Center. Or if you just want to type in nkphts.org, you'll pull up the Nickel Plate Society website.
Yeah, I've already got the Nickel Plate Society.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't talk about. Does it talk about this place that you just mentioned?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
it's hidden there somewhere on our about page. Yeah.
I don't see an about page. We got to stick. We got to stick with the train. We got to stick with the train wizard thing.
But anyways, I was talking about I think you wanted to know about the Mad River, or
well, no, I was just interested to see.
Yeah.
So Nickel Plate Historical Society, which seems to be a very going, because of Tony Custer, seems to be a very strong going concern. I was just wondering if it had any kind of a physical plant, but apparently
no.
It's all in this Heritage Discovery Center in Buffalo, New York. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good old Buffalo. It's you can't get there because of the snow right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you go to the Heritage Discovery Center, is there any way to find out about what's available to see about the nickel plate?
Yes, there is. We can open the rooms by appointment, and we do have a few little exhibits on display for people to see outside. So we're not completely walled off from the world.
Right.
So
and so does the Nickel Plate Society basically just work by word of mouth and the newsletter, and it has conventions, doesn't it, or get
yes,
together?
we have conventions. They have their own Facebook, Instagram, etc. I and a group of other people are working on forming some other things that should be debuting in the next few months for the society. That'll increase our digital footprint. One of the things we've done for decades at this point is we support a lot of ongoing preservation efforts at other museums that have nickel plate equipment, buildings, locomotives, etc. We're always ready to lend a hand if, say, somebody's restoring a caboose and they need lettering diagrams or the right paint colors or something like that. We also help fund preservation projects when we can.
Bruce, do you think Rapido Trains has ever contacted them?
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
That's our sponsor on the free channel.
Mm-hmm. Cool. But the Nickel Plate Society, they're kind of a grandfather organization to all of these other organizations, such as the Mad River Nickel Plate Museum. The idea for that was hatched at a Nickel Plate Society convention. The Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society, that idea was hatched at a Nickel Plate Road Historical and Technical Society convention. So there's a lot of cross membership, as I keep saying.
I'm going to ask you this question, but it's getting away from Train Wizard.
Yeah.
What is the history of 765? Because people are always so excited to talk about 765, and I've never really been a particularly. I'm more of a model railroader than I am a prototype guy. So I've never really understood it. So I know it was a big deal when they got it going again. And when was it first restored and started to run?
Okay. So Nickel Plate Road 765 is one of the 6 remaining Nickel Plate Road 284 Berkshires. There were 80 total at one point. It was built in September of 1944 by the Lima Locomotive Works. It worked for the Nickel Plate until 1958, and then it was stored at Fort Wayne, inside the roundhouse at Fort Wayne, from 1958 to 1963. And the reason it was stored inside was because it was the favorite locomotive of the crews running west out of Fort Wayne. And it was given a little extra care compared to the other Burks sitting around in the yard.
I see. Burks is like the short form.
Yeah, Berks is the short form of Berkshire.
Okay,
Berkshire.
That's like saying you put the biscuit in the basket.
Yeah. So the reason 765 was saved was because of its sister, the 767. The 767 opened the new High Line through downtown Fort Wayne, because the main line of the nickel plate used to go right through the middle of downtown Fort Wayne and caused all sorts of traffic issues for years. So they undertook this multi-million-dollar project to elevate the railroad through downtown. And it took a while to do because this thing called World War II happened in the middle of it. And they finally got it to the point where it was elevated. And 765 actually hauled the first freight train over the High Line. But 767 was the one that did the ribbon cutting ceremony. So that got all the publicity. So the nickel plate, they wanted to donate, or they offered locomotives to cities and towns along their route, when they were retiring steam locomotives, if they wanted one. And Fort Wayne said, well, sure, can we have the one that opened the High Line? And the nickel plate said, sure, we can give you 767. Well, what they forgot was that 767 had been in an accident and had suffered some damage. So its front end was kind of banged up, and that didn't look good to put in a park on display. So it swapped identities with 765, which was sitting safe and sound in the roundhouse and didn't have any damage on it at all. So 765 ended up in the park disguised as 767, and nobody but the railroad knew the difference. So so it was on display until 1974, and that's let me pull it up here because I got to get my dates right. So in 1972, the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society was formed to find a way to care for 765, because by that time the parks department wasn't really looking after it like they should have, etc. It needed painting and things. So they thought, we'll just take care of it, paint it up a bit. And then that just sort of morphed to, let's take it out of the park and put it back together and run it again, as these things do. So by 1974, they were able to pull it out of the park in Fort Wayne. And then they spent the next, how long was it? 5 years putting it back together again. And it was able to run under its own power in 1979. And it was restored entirely outside in the open. No building.
No, really, it was done in the open.
Yeah, it was done in the open. It was the first mainline steam engine to come back to life that was restored entirely outside.
Wow. Which is a huge job, because restoring it.
Absolutely, that'd be incredible kind of work around everything.
So does 767 still exist?
It does not. It was scrapped. It was scrapped. Yeah.
The Fort Wayne Railroad, fortwayneRailroad.org. That's a good site for people to follow along about this story.
Yeah. So then 765 embarked on a very long excursion career,
all over the place.
All over the place. It traveled everywhere.
It was I guess it was kind of the predecessor to what's happening these days with the big boy.
Kind of, because back in the day when it first started running, Norfolk Southern, well, really before Norfolk Southern, it was the Southern Steam Program was running. if you're familiar with 4501.
Yeah.
And 765's first big gig was filling in on the Southern Steam program for the Chesapeake and Ohio Kanawha, their version of the Berkshire, the 2716. It broke down. Well, there's one identical to it up in Indiana that'll run. So that sort of put them on the map because they were able to fill in for the C&O 2716 that broke down and couldn't do it anymore.
That wasn't the number you just said a minute ago. It was, you said the Southern.
Well, yes, it was this. It was the Southern Railroad. They took a C&O engine, the 2716, and dressed it up as a fake Southern engine.
Oh, okay.
And it broke down, unfortunately, and it couldn't run. And so then it got involved with the Southern Steam program, became the Norfolk Southern Steam program when the Southern and the Norfolk and Western merged. And then 611 got involved, and the 1218, etc.
Okay, hang on a minute. We're getting ahead of ourselves again. There's too much information. So what was this? What was the C&O locomotive number?
2716.
Aside from you, that seems to know lots and lots about restored steam, who else would you talk to?
Oh gosh. Well, you could get.
Is there some sort? Is there what they needs to be is some sort of a timeline of all these steam locomotives?
Yeah.
That through the 80s and 90s, because that's when it started becoming a thing in the 80s and 90s of these restored steam locomotives.
Well, I'll tell you what. The late Jim Wren. You guys familiar with that name?
Wasn't he the editor of Trains?
Yes. He wrote a marvelous book all about this.
Oh, really?
About the entire Norfolk Southern Steam program, and it covers everything.
Like, does it cover 765 as well?
It covers that too. Not in as much detail as some of the actual Nickel Plate Road 765 books that are out there.
What would you say? What would you say is the best 765
book
out there?
I don't know. I haven't written it yet. Right. The Society currently sells a book called Magnificent Machine. And it's a history all about 765 up until the second Norfolk Southern Steam program, which was the 21st Century Steam program. So that's a pretty good book to have.
All right, let's get back to Train Wizard Productions. Because that's where we got to concentrate on. Because so what I did is I scrolled all the way. So the way you have it in the gallery is the most recent stuff. Like you've got Fall Colors Steam Special 2024. Which was on Sunday, October 20th, 2024. I went on my first long-distance chase of Nickel Plate Road 765 on the Indiana Rail Experience. With my fellow railroad photographers, we followed the final Fall Color Steam Special running from Pleasant Lake, Indiana to Hillsdale, Michigan and return. How far was that?
Oh, what is the distance? Gosh. It's like...
Well, he's thinking about that line. I'll tell you... a number of years back, we actually rode that line when we went to visit Mike Burgett, and he hooked us up with the guy who had the restored CN caboose. We rode from Pleasant Lake up to Hillsdale and back.
I knew that. I actually remember that caboose ride. That was fabulous.
It was a great time.
Yeah, I know. Because what kind of a caboose was it? It
was an old CN.
That's what I thought. It was an old CN caboose.
Yep.
And it was completely restored.
Beautiful.
Yeah. By road, Pleasant Lake to Hillsdale is about 50 miles apart. So it was a pretty good distance we covered that day. Yeah.
So you didn't ride the train that day, you chased it?
Yeah. So usually for the past few years, I've been working all of these Indiana Rail Experience trains, not really chasing them.
Working as
as a volunteer,
taking
on
tickets
the trains.
And stuff.
Yeah, checking people in, car hosting, I've kind of become the unofficial official event photographer for the entire operation.
Well, you can't be taking pictures if you're taking tickets.
Yeah. Well, when I'm not taking tickets, I can take pictures.
Okay, I found the
and-
picture. I found the picture that caught my eye that started me on this long
Okay.
journey of discovering who the Train Wizard production guy is. And it is
Mhm.
and it is from the Nickel Plate Road night shoot of July 5th. Is it the month first or the day first? It says 5/7/22.
Oh yeah, that was May. That was in
Okay.
May. Yeah.
So this was in May 7th, 2022, organized by Chris Lance Photography to kick off the 50th year of the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society. A night shoot was held with Nickel Plate 765. Several scenes were staged to take us. And then the first picture I ever saw that you took that blew my socks off and started me on this journey to find out who you are is a guy and a girl standing beside an old looks like an Oldsmobile or something.
It's a Hudson.
It's a Hudson.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing this picture for the first time and looking at it and going, oh my God, this is fabulous.
Thank you.
And it is.
Yeah.
And then, so did you stage this picture or was somebody else staged it or?
So, this is all of Chris's Lance marvelous staging and organization skills as a photographer. Chris is he's a photographer, but he's also a career railroader. He's worked on everything from 765 to, if any of you are familiar with the Ohio Central Railroad back in the day, when Jerry Joe Jacobson was running all of his steam locomotives around Ohio back in the day. He worked on that back in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Here's Jerry Joe Jacobson.
Yeah, but Chris is a fantastic...
Who's Jerry Joe Jacobson?
Well, he's another subject. He could be an entirely other podcast subject, his life.
Hang on a minute. Have any of you other guys heard of any of these people?
I've heard of the Ohio Central Ohio, whatever, yes, because they had a big steam program for a
But
time.
you never heard of Jerry Joe Jacobson?
I never knew the man's name, no.
Okay, yeah.
So
well,
is he the guy that owns the Age of Steam Roundhouse?
He was the guy that built the Age of Steam Roundhouse. He passed away a few years ago, but that was all him.
And it still exists. That's a fabulous thing. Oh my God!
Yes, it is.
I've never been there. I'm sure you have, though. Many times, probably.
In fact, there's a whole photo gallery I can't put on the internet from there.
Why not? Why not?
They're very high strung about photos over there. Let's just put it that way.
Well, that's Kelly's very high strung too.
Yeah.
Maybe he could talk to them for you. Two high strung guys talking to each other.
But
hang on a minute. Yeah. We got business to do. I think this is the easiest way to do it. Rapido trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
So you say when he was running his steam locomotives all over.
Yeah.
How many steam locomotives did he have?
I think there were 7 at the time at the end.
Wow.
7 or 8. Yeah. Give or take 2 more that may have been out of service at the time.
Brad, how come you don't know any of this?
I'm not familiar with much out that way. That's very fascinating. I'm looking right now at some of the stage photos that Lionel was mentioning. They're just spectacular. The one the one, looks like there's a guy handing train orders up to the 765 at nighttime.
Yes.
That is so cool.
So all of this was shot at the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society shops in New Haven, which is just a little town outside of Fort Wayne proper.
Hang on a minute. This picture that I fell in love with.
Yes.
was shot at the Fort Wayne Historical Society shops.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In what town?
New Haven, Indiana.
Okay. And how big are their shops?
So we've got a it's essentially one of those prefab metal buildings. It's got a concrete floor. It's 2 tracks. We can fit 765 and some other things in with it. Like I said, concrete floor, drop pit, inspection pit, all that. It's heated. And then we've got a few sidings and storage tracks outside where we can store all the other things we're working on there, at least. And that's where 765 lives in the off season. And it's amazing what you can do with a 400-ton steam locomotive in a small space to make it look like it's on the main line. Because what they did is that they hauled out our collection of old refrigerator cars, which we are slowly restoring, hooked those onto the back of 765 so it looked like it was hauling a reefer train, which was one of the chief duties of the Nickel Plate Road Berkshires, forwarding fast refrigerator trains east and west. And then on the adjacent track, we had the Wabash caboose that had just been restored, and a couple more freight cars to simulate the tail end of a Wabash freight train, because the Wabash Railroad and the Nickel Plate Road interchanged with each other in Fort Wayne. And so we could stage it, like, the Wabash trains meeting up with the Nickel Plate train, etc. And then we had all of our little core group of volunteers who are really good at doing photo reenactments, wearing the period clothing and the outfits and the props.
That's the thing that gets to me is these period reenactments are just fabulous.
I love the one with the 3 guys standing by the caboose, reading a period-specific Trains magazine.
Yes.
It looks like that is so cool.
And that was, if I remember, I think that was the May 1955 issue of Trains, or close to it. It might have been the April edition or something.
Hey, Kelly?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You know how I'm bugging you sometimes? You don't talk and you don't say nothing, and I'll say, do you understand that it's an audio podcast?
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's what Brad's been doing, so that's exactly what it is I'm talking about.
I don't know. I think he might have been mesmerized by the train wizard.
I thought he'd left.
If you recall, I tried to interject some things from Pennsylvania, and you weren't interested in going down that route. So I was just trying to get the vibe of where the evil overlord wanted to go. I think I got it now.
I don't. Well, good. You can tell me, because I still don't know what we're doing. These are just
so.
I've never really seen. I've seen photos of the actual period, but I'm just fascinated by these ones that are staged.
They're mesmerizing.
I love that old Hudson. I think that's a Hudson Hornet.
It is. It's not a Hornet. We thought it was too. It's a different model of a Hudson. We were all joking that we were going to go Photoshop the car's eyes onto it when we got home. Still might do that. But so the car, if you're looking at the photo with the girl and the guy in the car belongs to the guy. The guy his name is Andrew Hirschman, and he works for the Indiana Northeastern Railroad, and he's one of our volunteers. And he restored that car, and it's beautiful inside and out. He drives it all the time. And he installed a satellite radio in the trunk, which is piped into the regular car speakers, so he can have 40s and 50s music playing in the car while he's driving, And,
sorry, I'm catching up. Where did you say that? What is the location where that photograph was taken again? What's the name of that?
It's New Haven, Indiana.
And is that on the old Nickel Plate main?
It is close to it, yes. It is linked up to it, yes.
Gotcha.
So just when they moved this 765 from New Haven to where's the main station where they?
So what happens is there's a ferry move over Norfolk Southern.
Well, let's just stick to land. Let's not get involved in the Great Lakes just yet.
Yeah. So.
Did you get that? Did you?
Yes, I did. But they call it a ferry move. And so we go down to the switch that connects us to Norfolk Southern in the former nickel plate, and the NS picks us up because we don't have positive train control installed on 765, so they have to tow us. And they tow 765 up to Mount Pelier, Ohio, which is where the connection is with the Indiana Northeastern, and they drop us off there. And then the engine just stays at the Indiana Northeastern shops while it's up on the Indiana Northeastern doing
during the
work
summer,
up there.
During the summer.
Yeah.
Do you ever do any winter?
That we don't run they don't run 765 in the winter. It hasn't in quite a while. It hasn't since the 90s, I think, actually. But they are running diesel-powered Christmas trains this year up on the Indiana Northeastern.
So let's go. We'll backtrack a little bit. How did you guys get involved with the Indiana Northeastern again?
I wasn't involved in that process. It was just
was the owner a good guy kind of thing?
Yeah, they were open to it. We had been looking, I think the society had been looking for another place to run for a while. And the Indiana Northeastern was just sort of it ticked all the boxes, I guess.
Right. And you don't need, they don't need positive train control on there because it's just a short line.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
And how far is it from where you we're from the Fort Wayne Historical Society? How far is it to get to the Indiana Northeastern?
Fort Wayne by road is just about, I want to say a little less than an hour south of where we run in Indiana. So it's not that far. In fact, if Conrail and Penn Central hadn't torn the trackage out, we could have run 765 all the way up from Fort Wayne to where we run, but they tore that line out back in the 80s and not in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
So now we have to go.
What's the overall distance that the train runs, the 765 runs then?
Well, it depends on what we're doing on
what's the farthest?
Day.
What's the farthest?
The furthest run we can do is the Tri-State. And that goes, let me pull it up here.
Roughly.
So we do at least one Tri-State steam excursion every year. And that runs from Eden, Ohio, up through Indiana, up into Hillsdale. Oh, what is the length? It's an all-day trip. We cover like 90 miles of track, on that day.
Like 90 miles one direction? Or 90
back
miles?
And forth.
Okay, so it's like
90 miles up and then 90 miles down.
Oh,
just
so 90 miles
there.
One direction then.
I think I may have this completely wrong. I don't know the track distances off the top of my head. But it's a lengthy run. Yeah. It's like a 3-hour excursion up and a 3-hour excursion back.
Right.
Because we have a layover in Hillsdale and they turn the train around on the Y. So 765 is always facing forward.
There's a Y up at
Hillsdale. Yeah.
And how does it get turned around when it comes back the other way?
We tow it backwards up to Hillsdale and start all over again. There's only one Y on the Indiana Northeastern, and it's in Hillsdale, Michigan.
Okay, so the starting point is from
Eden, Ohio.
Yeah. I'm so confused.
I'm sorry.
I have an interesting AML connection to the 765 line.
Oh, what's that?
Well, how come you've been waiting so long?
Yeah, really.
Because I had to contact the guy our buddy Todd Treaster. I thought he had run the 765 from. He just texted me back. It was under Norfolk Southern on the Pittsburgh line between Enola, which is near our state capital of Harrisburg, to just past Altoona. So Todd is a guy who we have had on and several times, has a really nice N scale layout, but he actually drove the 765.
Cool.
There you go.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So while we're trying to do a podcast, you're texting your friends?
Well, it was related to the podcast. I didn't want to get the information wrong.
He was researching.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I was efforting to make sure I had my facts straight.
I'm sorry to go back over this, but I'm confused about this whole Y thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on a typical day on this 90-mile run. Where does the train start from?
Eden, Ohio. Edon, Ohio. It's just a tiny dot on a map. It's a tiny town with a big giant grain elevator.
Okay, and is that like typical where the runs always start from, or?
No, just for the tri-state excursion, which is the big trip. And we go all the way up through Indiana up into Michigan to Hillsdale. At Hillsdale, there is a station with a platform. It's the old New York Central station. And
so where does 765 sit on a typical evening?
On a typical evening,
when it's not being used,
it goes over to the Indiana Northeastern shop complex, which is in Indiana.
Okay, maybe that was the wrong question. What's a typical weekend of operations? Like, where does it? It's doing. Like, what's a typical Saturday run for?
So, like, if we're not doing the tri-state, we're doing something smaller, like the ice cream trains. Well, I'll use that as an example. So, those will start in Angola, Indiana. In Angola, Indiana, there is a station building. It's a New York Central station building, because the Indiana Northeastern is comprised of former Wabash and New York Central trackage. And in Angola, there's a university. It's called Trine University. They own the station building. It's one of the campus dining halls. And we get to use that space to stage our ice cream trains. So passengers will park there. They'll get their ice cream before they board. They'll get on the train, and then 765 will go north about 10 or so miles up the line, and then it'll be pulled back by a diesel backwards.
Okay, so when I found the map for the Indiana Northeastern Railroad Company, so so when it gets up to Hillsdale, there's a Y in Hillsdale.
Correct. Yes.
So when it does the 90-mile run, it's facing west.
West. Yep.
Runs to Steubenville, does a hard right, goes up through Angola, Pleasant Lake, Fremont, Montgomery, Hillsdale, and then there's a Y in Hillsdale.
Correct.
And it comes back down. And now and then it goes back to Eden, but now it's facing east.
Yes.
So how do they get it turned around again?
So then there's usually one or two diesels waiting for us in Eden when the train gets back. And we change crews. And we empty the train of everybody and everything that needs to get off. And then the diesels take the whole consist back up to Hillsdale and turn the thing around and bring it all the way back down to Eden to start again the next day.
Wow. That's a big ordeal.
Yep.
And I would imagine a lot of the volunteers and the people that help out must get to ride, or do you have a car where everybody's like, oh man, I want to ride the train again? Or
Yeah. And we also, there's a night shift crew that handles that particular run, to turn it around and things.
Now all this is taking place, amazingly enough, Bruce. You'll be familiar with this. Yes. Right at the intersection of I-69 and I-90. So we've passed by this area many's a time.
Yeah.
Indeed we have.
Yeah, it's right across the border. It's only about a 2-hour drive for me to get there when I'm
All right,
doing
let's get back
Yeah.
to Train Wizard Productions, which is the main reason we're here.
Yeah.
Which is like
Mhm.
it's like I've found Batman's cave or something. Because I've been looking at your pictures for months and months and months,
Mhm.
and now to get to actually talk to you is kind of like, well, how cool is this?
Adam,
Thanks.
Adam, what do you use to take your photos?
So
He uses a camera.
I'm guessing he uses a camera.
Yeah,
Oh,
come
I know he's
on,
a
Kelly. Is that the best you can
Jeez,
come up
Kelly.
with?
Hey, whoa. He could use an iPhone,
Mm-mm.
or he could.
I don't
use
think
a
he'd admit to
professional
that.
camera.
He could what?
He could use a professional camera.
Yeah, I can go through let me go through my camera history.
You know what the best thing George Sebastian Coleman said to me once about cameras, and I was asking him about professional cameras and that, and I said, "What's a professional camera?" And he says, "Any camera that you've taken a picture with that's published.
Mm.
That's
there
a
you go.
professional camera."
Mhm.
And I went, "Yeah, I guess you're right." Anyways, let's go through your camera list for Kelly.
So I began with a Sony Alpha 300, which was gifted to me by my Uncle Phil, who was a fellow photographer and rail fan. He lives out in Arizona. But he gifted me that Sony Alpha 300, which was my real first big prosumer digital camera, I guess I would call it. It wasn't a Nikon Coolpix or anything like that. I mean, this thing had an actual lens and shutter buttons and all that sort of thing. And it was digital. And I used that for the first few years. And then I transitioned to a much more modern, at the time, digital camera. And that was a Nikon D7100. And that thing was a beast. So the photos, with the car and all that shot in Fort Wayne, that was all of the Nikon D7100. And that was pretty much my primary camera from 2015 until this past May. And when I went to Florida for the Florida East Coast Railway charter.
That was the next one I was going to ask you about.
Yeah. So when I went on that photo charter, that camera was showing its age. I was running into some issues on the last day. It was jamming up. It might have been the fact it was 90-something degrees out, but it was reaching the point in its life when it needed to be replaced. And there were a couple other guys there, and they had all recently upgraded to mirrorless cameras. And the one guy who also does really great photography, Brian Burden, he was showing me his Nikon Z8. And I was like, I got to get one of those for myself. Because most photographers are going mirrorless now when they're upgrading. That's the new thing over the digital. Mirrorless is the future. They can do so much more. The resolution is amazing. This is an easy way to showcase the comparison is that my D7100 could shoot 5 raw frames per second. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
My Nikon
500 per second. Holy
Yeah.
Lord.
Let him
no,
ask.
no, just 5, not 500.
Five.
Just 5.
Okay.
Just
Just
5.
five.
Just 5
Five.
raw frames per second.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, but then my Nikon Z8, which is a mirrorless, can shoot 20 raw frames per second.
And how much?
So
how much is a raw photo? How big is it? Like it's like
on my Z8, they reach up to 30 megabytes.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep. The
So
resolution is incredible.
I know.
So everything after the Florida East Coast Charter has been shot with my new Nikon Z8.
And you can use the same lenses. You just needed a new body.
No, the lenses are different. The mounts
Wow.
are different.
Oh.
Yeah, it's completely different. So I can buy a little adapter to use my other lenses, but I haven't had a need to do that quite yet. So,
what lenses? What was your first go-to lens for your Z8?
it's just the one that it came with in the kit.
50 millimeter or something?
No, let me pull it up here.
Roughly.
I can't.
Is it a zoom, a small zoom or something?
It's 24 to 105.
Oh,
no, I'm sorry, 24 to 120.
24 to 120, perfect. It's pretty much all you'd ever need.
Yeah.
So tell us about this, because this is the next one I was going to ask you about, the Florida East Coast Railway 148 photo charter. So how would you find out about the photo charter, for starters?
Well, like I said earlier, I do a lot on social media, so I'm pretty much tuned in to everything that's going on in railroad preservation world. And because I'm a photographer, I'm on all these other email lists, and I know all the people running the shows. So
right, yeah.
It's
for somebody out there that's listening, that's looking to find the best site to get connected, the best social media site. Is there a good site for people to?
There's not one single place. I would suggest following your favorite railroads. There's a couple. Like, you can follow Chris Lance on Facebook and Instagram. You can follow Dynamo Productions on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. There's Dak Dillon. He does photo charters. Probably the biggest and oldest name, because he was the first guy that was doing it, is Laro Photography. He comes up a lot.
Laro?
I've done Pete Laro.
Okay.
He does a lot of big photo charters. I'm supposed to hopefully still go on one at the end of January of next year.
Which one is that you're supposed to go on?
It's going to be with Pierre Marquette 1225, but she just got taken out of service because her superheaters have gone bad. So we're not sure if it's going to happen or not. But this one, the Florida East Coast Railway photo charter, was put on by none of those people. Let me tell you a little backstory on this particular engine, because it's a little more complex.
Okay,
Get ready.
And where did it run out of? Where was it?
Okay, well, here we go. So,
well, roughly, was it out of Tampa? Was it out of Orlando?
Clewiston.
Okay.
It's in the middle of the state.
Okay.
So there's this company called U.S. Sugar. Anybody ever hear of it?
Yep.
I've heard of sugar.
Okay, good. U.S. Sugar generates 10% of the United States sugar supply. They have over 250,000 acres of sugarcane fields in South Central Florida. And since the early 1900s, they've had their own internal railroad system that covers their entire, harvesting operation. And it's called the South Central Florida Express, or they just simply call it the Sugar Express.
So for those that would like to know, Clewiston, Florida is at the bottom of Lake Okeechobee, which is dead smack in the middle of the state, which is dead west of West Palm Beach and dead east of Fort Myers.
Yes.
And they have their own trackage down there, do they?
Yes, they have. Let me pull it up here. It's like, how much is it? All these things were fresh in my mind a couple months ago.
You know what? While you're doing that, I'll say this: Rapido Trains.
Oh, there you go.
Fast track to model railroading fun.
Let's try again. You don't say anything, Adam.
Okay.
Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
There you go. Anyways,
Oh,
let's
there.
get the short version of this.
Yeah,
because
so
you're
they've
gonna.
got
Unfortunately, Adam, you're going to be forced to come back.
Okay, that's fine. Well, so they have over 171 miles of track that they run on, and a number of years ago, just a few years ago, really, they bought back one of their original engines from the steam days, and that's number 148, which began life on the Florida East Coast Railway. Then it was purchased by U.S. Sugar and used on sugarcane trains. And after it was retired, it was sold, and it went through the hands of several private owners across the country. It ran in New Jersey for a little bit in the 60s and 70s. It ended up in storage in Colorado, and the group that had it in Colorado wanted to run it in Colorado, but that never happened. And U.S. Sugar purchased it, and then they contracted with FMW Solutions to put it back together again, because the owner of U.S.
which is who we were talking about earlier.
Who we were talking about earlier. Because the owner of U.S. Sugar decided that he wanted to create a tourist train operation out of Clewiston to help the local economy. And why not run a scenic train if you got all these other trains going on? You might as well do it all.
And
so they put,
for those that are listening, if you'd like, you can just go to Facebook and plug in Sugar Express, and boom, it comes up.
Yep.
And also, Lionel, also our friend Danny Harmon has a bunch of YouTube videos on the operations of.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yeah.
Which is the on YouTube channel Distant Signal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, this photo charter was organized by my friend Kelly Lynch, who is with FMW Solutions and is currently the executive director of the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society. And my friend Carmine Crudell, do you guys know that name?
I can just pause for a minute, Adam.
Yeah.
I need to talk to the other guys.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to end up listening to this podcast twice so I can make notes of all these people and names that he means.
Yeah.
and add to the list of the 49 million we have to
Yeah,
do.
exactly.
So
anyway, so the Sugar Express has this Florida East Coast 148.
Yeah, so it was advertised, and so I texted Kelly and Carmine. I was like, all right, guys, I've never been down here. Is it worth doing? And they said, you're coming. And I'm like, all right. They didn't give me an option. So for the first time since 1997, I had to fly in an airplane to Florida.
Oh.
And
well, you know what? Since the first time since October, I flew in a plane to Florida.
Wow. Well, you see, I have not flown on an airplane since 1997 until this past April. That was the last time I was on an airplane.
There's been a few changes since then.
Yeah. You see, my parents were teachers, so we never had to fly anywhere in the summer. We just drove everywhere, and we also had a 30-foot RV trailer that we could, take around.
Is that true, Brad? Because you're a teacher, you don't have to fly anywhere?
No, because you have more time over the summer. You don't
we have more time.
To get there quickly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
To take our time.
So you can enjoy the journey rather than having to get right to the destination.
Okay, because you have one of those high-paying government jobs where you only work 9.5 months of the year.
Don't I wish?
All right, we got to wrap this up. We're coming to the end here.
I get to Florida, and this was one of the most intense photo charters I've ever been on, because with Kelly running it and stuff,
we're going to stop.
Days.
We're going to stop here, and we're going to talk about the Florida floater. The Florida photo charter will be the first thing we talk about in our next episode.
Okay. Yeah,
definitely.
What do you think about that?
Can we talk about the that photo shoot that you did on the Everett Railroad too? That's pretty.
Yeah.
Well, make a note. Make a note.
Yeah, we'll do.
Are you available in a week on the same day in a week?
Yeah, I think I should be next Monday.
All right. Well, that's when we'll talk.
All right.
Good.
Cool.
But it won't be next Monday that you hear it. It'll be a different time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but we can record
And hopefully by then I won't hear myself in my headphones talking to me.
again.
Oh my God. I can't believe if this podcast turns out I get another gold star in my file.
Now you know how we feel on every podcast, though.
Whoa.
That's the last we heard of.
You got a way to download this one, Brad?
Yeah, I download them all because there's always a good chance that everyone is going to be my last. Yeah, that's why I enjoy these so much, because at any time I could always be the last one. So.
Hey, Bruce.
Hello.
I think he just took a shot at me there, didn't he?
I think he fired like with a 14-inch cannon at you.
Yeah.
14-inch navel. Boom. There it was.
Kelly, can you give out our email address?
Yes, I can give out the email address. You can reach us by email at modellerslife@gmail.com. That's modeler with one L like Norfolk Southern, not two L's like nickel plate.
Nice. I like that. And if you miss that email address, if you go to our website, amodellerslife.com, and just scroll down a little bit to the picture of the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state, then you can all you got to do is click on the picture, and the address is already filled in for you. So, and what else are we going to? Oh, yeah. Nick, can I ask you? Nick, how'd that come up? Nick? Adam, can I ask you a question?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever wanted a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
And I don't think I have.
Well, if you ever do want a T-shirt with a hot dog on it, if you go to the Midwest Model Railroad website, and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com, and you go to the scroll across the navigation bar to other, and click on the drop-down menu, there's the AML shop.
Oh, okay.
And boom. You're in a wonderland of AML merchandise, hats, hoodies, mugs, T-shirts, and in there you'll find a T-shirt with a hot dog on it.
Ah.
Which everybody... Brad, how many of those do you have?
I have 4 of them now.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Cool.
I just ordered a mug today, too.
Did you really?
I did, yes.
With a hot dog on it?
Yeah.
No, just an AML mug.
Oh, okay. And did you enjoy this podcast, Adam?
Yeah, it's fun.
Well, if you'd like to have twice as much podcasting a week, if you click on our Patreon, if you go to our website, amodellerslife.com, and click on the Patreon link, for just a few cents a day, you can have twice as much podcasting a week. And on Tuesdays, our paid channel, that's more of our down home, no holds barred. It's just a real honest to goodness. We don't. We try to be as honest and forthcoming as we can on that channel. So
Cool.
it's a little bit different. This is on the free channel. This is more the information channel, and the Patreon channel is more of our family channel. It's our family channel. If our family was a bunch of bikers. Rough and tumble bikers. If our family, you know what? If our family was the Hanson brothers from the movie Slapshot.
Yeah.
Do you remember that movie, Adam?
No, I don't think I do.
Not only does he not remember it, he's never heard of it. You got to have heard of it to remember it. And also there, if you go to our T-shirt level, then you're entered into the game that's sweeping the globe called Hey Dude, Where's My Shirt? Because at that level, every year you get a T-shirt that's only available to Patreon members. But the problem is the guy that's in charge of sending out the T-shirts is, he's useless. So there's not everybody gets the T-shirts on time, but they do get them. But that's the game. That's the game.
And they are fabulous, too.
Yeah,
So
and
they're
that's the
worth the
game.
wait.
Hey, dude, where's my shirt? I think that's it. Is that it, Bruce?
So we talked about email address, moderate aggregate mailboy, Midwest Model Rail, Patreon. We got them.
So now, Adam, at the end of the show, at the appropriate moment, we need you to say "Happy Rails" to you.
Okay.
Now, the key is to this is there's no singing, there's no dancing, There's no interpretation of any kind. We just need you to say with enthusiasm, happy rails to you.
Happy rails to you.
Right,
Okay.
but not yet. You'll know when to say it. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Adam, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say,
happy rails to you.
Mr. Strang's wardrobe provided by The Dashing Camper. For all your fashion and tent repair needs, trust The Dashing Camper.
It's another Lincoln Homer.
wow, that was a good one.
That was really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Oh,
one of
thank
our-
you.
That was one of our better ones ever.
He hit that one deep to center field.
Yeah,
right
that
up
was
the
it.
middle.
Yeah, man, oh man.
Oh,